had this societal construct where you are strong and you are the leader and you are this way.
Right.
And if you have emotions, deal with it and like suck it up and you're the leader. So
well, you know what's funny though? Maybe not funny, but like I agree with some of that though. There needs to be that though.
yeah, but I think there's a balance.
There is a balance for sure, because like the extreme of one end is PTSD, but then the extreme of another end is a weak society.
For sure.
And I don't think that's arguable. You know what I mean? Like, I just had this conversation with a buddy of mine out in Austin on the podcast, but like, it's great that, like, I've been in therapy, right? I've been in and out of it. And then, like, my last one fell asleep on me. That was a fun time. That's a fun story. That's actually a really fun story.
That's crazy. Dude.
I think it's because he was such a nice guy. You know what I mean? Damn. I'm the type of person, I think therapy attaches to different people in different ways. Like, there's people that love being in it, love doing it, and so that when there's issues that come up, they're already with their therapist. They know what's been happening in their life and what's, you know what I mean? There's a lot of that. Right? It's like, hey, brand new person, I've got issues, figure it out. Like, that type of shit. It's like, okay, we've known this for like 2 years, 3 years, whatever. But I started seeing therapy again as I was going through a pretty bad breakup, and most of which was my fault. And so, obviously, personal development, gotta go figure that shit out. And it was good for like 3-4 months. An older guy, like late 60s, very nice. And his office was always very warm. We met at 4 in the afternoon. So one time we were having a conversation. Well, I thought we were having a conversation, and
you were having a conversation.
Yes, I'm giving my end of the story, and he's sitting there and he's doing this. He goes,
Fired immediately.
And
fired.
then he noticed himself. He catches himself, and he sits up. Like, he's all red as fuck. I don't acknowledge it or anything, but he's red in the face, drinking water, whatever. And then finally, like 2 minutes later, he's like,
again, dude, come on,
out. I'm talking dead to the world.
What did you do?
So like,
I quietly just got up and...
I almost wish this happened like deeper into my comedy career, so I knew what the right thing to do was to make this funny for me,
right?
But like, I was sitting there and I was like, no shit. Like I felt special. Like, this is unique. Like, how often does this happen, right? And so I was like, I was sitting there. I was like, long night, huh? Oh, doesn't move.
Wow.
Are you worried that he died?
No, because his chest kept going up and down.
Okay.
He kept breathing. Yeah, no, that's the first thing I looked at. I was like, no shit. Oh, okay, thank God he's alive. Okay, I can be a dick now.
Oh my God.
Okay.
But you actually said...
Yeah, and then I said, I was like, long night, huh? Doesn't move.
Dude.
So I just sit there for a bit, and he does the, like you're back in high school. You know, he was like, bah. He goes, oh, I'm so sorry. Da, da, da. And I was like, hey, man, listen, like, truthfully, don't give a fuck. Like, it's fine. It's actually kind of funny. Listen, and what was funny was, like, I think the week before that, I brought this up to him, and I was like, hey, man, like, I really appreciate all these sessions. Life is actually going kind of well for me right now.
And you owe me a free session for falling asleep in the last one, by the way.
Oh, this is beforehand.
Oh,
This is the one before. And I was like, life's not going, like, amazing or anything, but, like, I feel like it's getting to the point where I just come in here looking for things to complain about. Rather than, like, actually, I don't feel like I need to be here. I've never felt like that in general. Like, I have to stay in therapy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's more of like if the car's getting off the rail or getting off out of the lanes, pushing it back in the lane. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that.
And I was like, yeah, I just feel like I'm coming in here complaining a lot. And he goes, well, how do you feel about complaining? I'm like, no, bitch. Like, that's not what I fucking mean. I didn't say that, but I'm like, dog, that's not what I meant.
That's a way to get another week out of you, dude. He's trying to get paid, man.
Oh,
He's
stop.
trying to...
No, it is.
No, it's true.
No. I agree. No, I agree with that because, like, look.
Bro, I don't need to be here real quick. I'm not trying to interrupt. My dad paying fucking $200 for golfing lessons for, once a week. I hope my dad doesn't listen to this episode. His fucking golf game has sucked for so long. I'm like, how many times have you been to this fucking guy?
Time to get a new instructor.
Yes, this guy's just keeping you there. He's changing your swing every 6 weeks to keep you there to make money.
Or he just sucks at his job.
I'm not saying all therapists do this. Selma's great. But do some therapists do this?
Yes.
Do some dentists say, you got a cavity when you might not have a cavity and need a filling? They're trying to make money, dude.
Okay.
Come on. Like,
okay,
it definitely happens.
I'm going to shelf that part of it in my brain because that's a real thing. Like that's like a documented thing that we know now post COVID on the grander scale of like the how do they what was the pharmaceutical like industrial complex, the pharmaceutical industry. But anyway, look, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist. I have a podcast. I'm a guy in his late 20s with superhero tattoos that has a podcast. All right, like I'm just trying to live my life and be happy, and I think I'm funny enough to do stand up. You know what I mean? Like I'm a guy. Even I know that if someone came in front of me and said, "Hey, I don't know why I should keep coming. I feel like I'm complaining when I come." I would not say, "How do you feel about complaining?" I would say, "Okay, what do you feel like you should be getting out of this that I'm not providing?"
Sure.
Again, I'm not a doctor, but I feel like if there were a top 5 responses, that's got to be 1 or 2. You know what I mean? But so when he answered with that, I was like, subscription service. Got it. Okay, we're done here. And I like left with the mentality of like, we're done here. And I was like, no, we're all human. Therapists are just humans. Shrinks are just humans. I'm going to give him 2 more tries. And then the next one is when he fell asleep. And so,
Fired.
Yeah, so I was like, hey, man, listen, like, I really don't care. It's kind of funny. However,
I will not be back.
especially like after the conversation we had last week, I don't think I should be here in the first place. And, you know what I mean? I was like, deuces, dude. I just fucking split. And then, and I left, and the receptionist was real nice. And she goes, oh, no, I hope it went well, and we'll see you back next week at the same time. I'm like, honestly, not really. Nothing any of you guys did, but nah.
Take me off the schedule.
Yeah, I was like, I'm all good. And it was like, okay. I was like, yeah, have a good one. So, yeah.
That's wild that it happened to you, man. I wouldn't even know. I think I would have just...
Well, what part of me...
I'm mortified for you. Why?
Oh.
No.
Oh.
What's that part in Click where he's talking to his boss?
He takes
Pauses
his
it and just bitch slaps.
Oh yeah, that part too. He farts in his face too, right?
Yeah.
Sick.
But no, there was a part of me.
It is really bad.
There was a part of me that like wanted just to get up and leave. I definitely could have.
Just sneak out.
But I definitely could have.
That would have been fucking hilarious. He wakes up, you're gone. That would have been...
Yeah,
and he's like, how long have I been out?
Yeah,
right. But
best,
he was an old man.
Yeah.
And I think he had heart issues. So I didn't want to read in the paper in 3 days. You know, I even forget his name. He was like a nice guy, you know, whatever. Dies of a heart attack. I'm like,
killed him.
I did it. You know, he don't deserve that. You know what I mean? It's
Fair
not
enough. Fair enough.
But,
male-male friendships, male-male dynamics.
yeah, and then even like, I don't know, because, yeah. So there needs to be a level of like, no, you're a fucking guy. If you have issues, like, I'm glad we have therapy. I'm thinking you're getting me back on track. I'm glad we have therapy. I'm glad we have all these things and resources. Use them. But because my buddy Mav said this, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. If I'm sitting down with you for like 2 times, 3 times, okay, great. I will sit down and talk with my friends. But like the 3rd or 4th time, if you're still telling me the same shit, okay, what are we doing about this? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing about this to actually make the situation better? Or do you just want to bitch and complain?
Right.
If you want to bitch and complain, do so, but like be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Don't act like the world is falling down around you. You're doing nothing to do about it, and you don't enjoy that your life is falling apart just a little bit, just so you have something to complain about.
Right.
There are people like that. I'm sure you've met them.
Yeah.
Like, they just love to complain.
Right.
It's like, dog, I get being a realist. Figure it out, though, or shut up.
Yeah, I mean, it's also our subconscious mind's way of keeping us complacent and in the familiar.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're talking a little bit about the masculinity, the leadership, and how do we balance that with recognizing your emotions, talking about them, doing something about it. It's sort of in our society, we've expected men to be strong and brave. We've given them 0 skills to be emotionally intelligent. And then when they're 30, we're like, well, why aren't you emotionally intelligent? What the fuck? You're not attractive. You're not this. You're not that. Without ever equipping them with the skills or giving them the space to develop them. So can we make a change in male-male friendships to support one another doing that? I know you have a lot to say about male-male friendships.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm in a interesting position because I'm short and I'm not buff, and I'm like, I wear my heart on my sleeve a lot of the time, and I'm not afraid to say how I feel, you know? And yeah, I feel like I'm not taking advantage of that enough. I don't even. There's so
In
much.
your friendships?
Yeah, I think in my friendships for sure. Yeah, and just in my life and with the platform we have, we were thinking about doing actually doing like a segment where it's just me and some dudes and not Sam at all, having like I don't know 3 or 4 or 5 episodes. Who knows?
Oh, so you mean like a real podcast?
Haha.
Because I feel like the world needs that, and I don't know. It sucks.
Well, why do you think things like fucking Rogan took off so well? Like,
Well,
yeah,
hold on, no,
they're famous.
Not like that. Not like that.
No, what I mean though is like yeah, they're famous comedians or whatever. But at the end of the day, he set a platform for like where there's a bunch of homies talking.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
you can disagree with the politics and with the, maybe the not the incorrect or correct information, but I do appreciate that side of it for sure.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I
first,
appreciate
that's
that
why,
side of it. Like,
that's why I started doing this
right.
was because like I noticed like I thought podcasting could be fun and all that stuff, but I also and I told my friends this. I was very transparent with them about this.
Yeah.
I saw where all of our lives were going, where it was like, oh, we're starting to kind of like really find our places in life. We're like, oh, they have this job, they have this career, they have this girlfriend or wife or now kid. I have friends with kids now, just fucking bananas to me.
Mm-hmm.
But like, we're all finding our places in life, but we're all friends. And just because we don't see each other doesn't mean that we're not friends. But
Right.
like, we don't really have time to figure that out. So what if like we just, hey, listen, man, tonight from fucking 6 to 9 p.m., we're not going to do shit but just hang out. We're putting our phones away and we're just hanging out. And some of the closest conversations I've had with my friends, I don't think it's a good thing, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just a fact of the matter in the world that we live in, everything being digital. Some of the closest conversations I've had with any of my friends that I've known for a better part of a decade, over a decade, have been on a podcast.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to that. So I think that's more of what you're talking about, where it's like
Yeah.
a bunch of guys just hanging out,
Right.
having a good time. There is a need for that in the same respect.
Yeah.
And there's a space for that for women. That's why, what's her fucking name? Alex Cooper. That's why Call Her Daddy took off. Because, yeah, she's having more male guests, and, like, Dave Portnoy just went on and shit like that. But, like...
And she grilled him.
But I haven't seen the whole thing yet.
Oh, you should watch it.
But the whole basis of her podcast started with women talking shit. And that's why so many dudes... To call a spade, that's why so many dudes were against it. Like, oh, what are these women doing just hanging out, talking about sex and drugs and boyfriends, these whores? It's like, no, dude. What the fuck are we doing?
Exactly.
We're just talking about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, too. We just have a different lens on it, and we're guys.
Right.
So it's like, that's why Alex Cooper took off in the way that she did, because that was really the first... Like, yeah, you had, like... The View became so political anyway, and so detached so quickly anyway, because it was women in their mid-40s and onwards. So it's like, there was never, at least, correct me if I'm wrong, but up until her, there was never really a space for, like, women in their early, like, late teens, 20s, early 30s, to kind of, like, talk about, like, what their lives are like, and what makes them laugh, what makes them feel a certain way. Like, am I wrong about that?
I think there's also, like, the Skinny Confidential. Like, there are a couple of things that are, like, Alex Cooper's generation, and then there's, like, our generation, like Alex Earl. But, yeah, I mean... It is also, though, easier to do those things because we don't have the social stigma for women to be vulnerable in that way. So what Elliot's talking about with a men's series is, like, how do we break that stigma and, like, get real and vulnerable with men?
And I think it just comes down to, like, curating the space, honestly. Like, I think it's not that difficult because I kind of like the event. Like, if you give people a series of directions, more than likely... Especially if they're friends of yours, they're going to follow your lead, right? So if you get 5 of your guys together and you guys have never sat down and had a real conversation, but you say, hey, like, what do you guys think about we put our phones away and we have a fucking conversation on a podcast? Are they going to say no? I would venture to say most of my friends are going to be like, yeah, let's do it. You know?
And I was scared that a lot of people wouldn't, because a lot of people aren't cool getting in front of a camera.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Fair enough, yeah.
Like, a lot of people are
Then fuck it. Just don't do the podcast. Just do
exactly
do real life, man.
No, exactly. Have a real, like, social interaction that's... Yeah, no,
Right.
No, that's preferable. Like,
Yeah.
obviously. But for the context in which we're doing this and talking about...
Right.
A lot of people aren't willing to get as vulnerable, you know, because there are cameras and there are microphones and that type of shit. And the microphone thing is very avoidable, but there's a reason why I don't have like a camera just right there and then like right here, why they're kind of off in the periphery.
Right.
Because I hope that eventually, as whether it's experienced podcasters like you guys or brand new guests that have never been on a podcast before, they kind of just forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's like the whole goal. But I agree. There is definitely a needed space for shit like that.
And I think that's the perfect marriage of this, like, masculine and feminine. Like, the leadership and the authority and the direction. Hey, we're going to sit down and do this. And the feminine, or that emotional side, like, part of what we're going to do is get raw and real with each other and throw the ego out the door. And if it comes up, let's be real about it.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Yeah, and they're not, I think they're getting more popular because of people like, obviously creators like you guys are doing just organically and very like, you know, in that, but like Christina Basinski and Tom Segura, right? There's a reason why Your Mom's House is so big, just because it started out with just them. They've always been a couple, people of getting attached to people like you guys have obviously experienced, but it's like, yeah, they're both very funny comedians, and they're both known for their different sects of like, or like sections of where they got famous.
Right.
But now you get to see how they interact as husband and wife, and that's kind of like, because typically like that's something that's always behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And there's an element which should always be behind closed doors, like elements of a marriage, of course.
Yeah.
But being able to see that was like, oh no, like it's okay for husband and wife to joke around with each other. It's okay for husband and wife to be playful and to be like that type of shit.
That's what I want to talk about really quick. I feel like we're at this precipice, because I feel like relationships seem to be hanging in the balance. We're here talking about how difficult, you know, relationships are in general, or how much like quality they seem to be lacking. What, in your opinion, like what about our marriage should be off limits? Because I feel like I keep hearing that, and I'm not, you know, nothing against what you're saying at all. I keep hearing that. I'm on Twitter. I'm seeing it a lot on Twitter too. It's like there are some things that you know, should not talk about. Like, you know, these people are way too open about their relationship. I know that people fucking get dick from us, dude. I know that. Like, we have, you know, we have the same Instagram account. We've talked about that, how funny it is.
You said get the ick, but it sounded like you said get the dick.
Get the ick.
So just to clarify.
From us, like that we're, well, I mean, whatever. Like what should we withhold?
What's the extreme of that is Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. Do you think that any woman on this planet is going to be able to convince me to sit down in front of millions of people and where she's going to explain how she cheated on me with our son's friend?
Yeah, see, that's crazy.
And then I'm going to accept that, and then I'm okay? Get the fuck out of here.
That's crazy.
Hell no.
If we had something like that in a relationship, obviously, I mean, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't sit down and have that conversation. But like in our relationship,
mm-hmm.
What do you think should be off limits?
Well, I think that like couples that are in the limelight like that get all of this hate around like their relationship is terrible, like we know everything, like let's remind everybody that social media is a highlight reel. Just because you follow a creator and they're a vlogger or a podcaster or are more willing to put their life online does not mean that you know everything about their life. Like, inevitably, there are nuances and things that are behind closed doors, because that's life.
Right.
I also think a lot of those types of relationships are a bit like shoot the shit and, like, just having conversations that we've, like, recorded and put out.
Right.
And I don't foresee the podcast going in that direction.